Hey guys, this is Paula Rhodes, and I happen to play Evelyn in Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. And when I'm not searching for a mommy, I'm listening to the Crimson Head Elder Podcast. Would you be my mommy? Trick or treat.
Can you see that area behind me beneath the red tinted sky? That is what's left of Raccoon City.
Our platoon is cut off. No survivors found.
I'd rather starve to death in here than be eaten by one of those undead monsters!
We're both gonna die.
Wait, don't shoot!
Down!
I lost all my men because of her!
All is lost. Cries of agony. Stars. Unity breeds power. Power is life.
Biohazard.
Welcome to the Crimson Head Elder Podcast, your favorite podcast about your favorite video game. We're the #1 survival horror podcast on iTunes, and here's why.
We're going trick-or-treating, and of course there really is only one child to accompany us, Resident Evil's creepiest kid, the tragically haunting Evelyn, in critically acclaimed Resident Evil 7, and also actor for Myra Hanson in Shinji Mikami's other survival horror classic, The Evil Within 2. Yes, tonight's star guest on this Halloween special of the Crimson Head Elder podcast, the multi-award-winning Paula Rhodes.
Oh, that's a pretty awesome intro. Thank you. Hi.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us. Absolute pleasure to have you, and so kind as well to join us so soon after the release of Resident Evil 7. Thank you.
Of course. I guess it's even sooner, after the Evil Within 2.
Yeah, that was a fantastic surprise to hear that you were in that as well, because of course you quite rightly kept that secret from us. From your point of view, though, unfortunately, when I did find that out, the interview time that we want to have you for kind of doubled.
Well, and to be clear, I did not voice Myra. I just, I did the facial capture, which is a really odd new skill of having to do the lip syncing to the other actor's vocal performance and doing all of the expressions and emotional life for the character.
You've not done facial capture before. I imagine there were particular challenges with that as opposed to with the Evelyn delivery.
Yeah, it's definitely a new skill, and it's not something that they do for every game. A lot of times they'll, capture them all at the same time, as we did for Resident Evil, wearing the cameras and the dots on your face and everything else as you record. So they kind of already have all of that data to play with when they're making the game. So yeah, new skill set, not something that's always done for games, but it was really fun to learn. And I guess it was sort of funny in that I was about 6 and 7 months pregnant doing that one. Both Evelyn and Myra, spoilers if they haven't played the games, have some big battles, and they both turn into huge giants covered in goo, different colored goo, mind you. But,
yeah,
but it's like,
there's a pattern to these video games.
It was just a funny, I wonder if this is a niche for me. But one of the producers had said something about perfect face for this. And it was a little bit lost in translation. I think was trying to be complimentary, but the way he actually said it sounded something like, well, you make a great monster. And when you're 8 months pregnant and feeling massive anyway, you're just like, great, thank you.
Oh, that's the last thing you want to hear.
They meant it complimentary. It was wonderful. It was just a funny, good, great, okay, fantastic monster.
Yeah, and a sort of a worrying pattern to your choice of video games with what happens to your character at the end.
Yeah, I don't think I make many sequels.
Yes, you're going to have to look into that for your resume. Make sure you survive till the end, and then there's always the chance, because that's so unfortunate. We'll come on to that. Your performance as Evelyn in Resident Evil 7 is spectacular, and would have been fantastic to have seen that character continue and to have had you in the Resident Evil series again and to enjoyed your performance. We get these fantastic, iconic antagonists often just killed off too quickly and never see again.
Well, they can always do prequels or spin-offs and otherwise, so you never know. But yes, it does seem to be a particular talent I have for picking things that just kill me off. I should have a death reel or something.
Right, talking about the challenges of doing the facial capture, moving on to Evelyn, I would imagine surely challenging enough developing a cadence for the strength of emotions expressed by your character in Resident Evil 7 had she been an adult. But to do so for a child, as Evelyn was, that must have been considerably more so.
There's a certain amount of just kind of instinct and magic that comes in when you're picking a voice for a character. I'm sure some people deal more A-brain with it or, really plot it out as far as cadence and things. For me, a lot of times it's just sort of zeroing in on an age. And, for children's characters, I've already been all of those ages because I am an adult, an ancient adult, and sort of kind of locking into that and just whatever comes out naturally from what I remember or feel from those ages. And for kids, there's such a pureness to every emotion they feel. And I think also remembering for villains, I think an acting teacher told me this long ago, but it's always helped me with anybody that's maybe not the protagonist, is that nobody's the villain in their own mind. Nobody's really the mustache twisting, for the most part. I mean, maybe there's a cartoon or two where you are, but usually you are the hero of your own story and you're right in your own mind. And so just finding the reasoning for all of a character's actions, especially in a very pure child's form, kind of filters out all the super plotting required, and it kind of just makes a voice and a delivery come out.
That's quite a poignant point, particularly from Evelyn's point of view, that she wasn't, in her mind, she wasn't the enemy. She wasn't a bad person. And then that's really sort of tragically emphasized at the very end with the line delivered by the actress who played the sort of the senior Evelyn. Why does everybody hate me? And it's really sad. So it's great to hear you pick that point because it definitely resonates in your delivery that Evelyn feels very much a tragic and you can hear that confusion when you're having those interjections with Katie O'Hagan who played Mia Winters.
Yeah, she just wants a family. I mean, every character at the very heart of them is seeking love of some sort, whether, it's love of belonging, group love, parent love is a very common one. We all have that inside of us on some level. You kind of develop it around, like, often whatever's a little bit lacking is what you really seek for the rest of your life right then. It's a weird psychological thing that I think, actually I learned in acting classes years and years ago. So if you can zero in on that, whatever that character's basic need is and kind of relate to it, because we all have our own basic needs, it makes things more real. So yeah, for her, as I think you probably covered in previous things, we don't always know when we're auditioning for a video game. In fact, 99% of the time, don't know what game it is, nor how big a character it's going to be. Often not even if you are a villain or not. Sometimes it's just a character. And when I got this particular audition, it was just a little girl. And I think originally they wanted her Cajun, so I had a different accent and all things when I went in.
Oh, that's interesting.
They weren't sure if they were going to go with an accent or not. So I had one. And I mean, the funny thing about this particular audition is it came in when I was just having my first son. I was literally still in the hospital and my epidural had not worn off. And I answered the phone book, a number very similar to my family members, and turned out to be setting up this audition for just a video game was all I knew, a motion capture. And it's awesome. I can't come in tomorrow. Or I was like, well, I just had a baby. And they're like, oh, how old are they? And I'm like, oh, 3 hours or so. And they're like, what? Why are you answering the phone?
So ironic you're having your own family to play this character that's so desperate for one.
It was a hoot, but they were terribly understanding and parents as well. So they were like, come in 2 or 3 weeks and not a problem at all. I ended up my baby and my husband with me, and they kind of, got to watch this audition. And essentially, I think the fact that I'm 5 feet tall and or 12-year-old sized-ish really is what they needed, because for the motion capture, height is sort of the key. They can change a lot of other things, but height's.
Yes. I take your point, but far more important that you're capable of doing that delivery of the lines there as well.
True. Yes. I'm sure that helps. Yeah. But they really wanted to see, I think, all of the right size people for this. But I walked out of there thinking that I definitely did not book it. I had no idea what game it was. Yeah. I walked out of there because they had me try her lines and then after we did the scene as Evelyn, they had me just switch kind of just to see what I'd do with the last minute change and play the other character in the scene whose lines I didn't memorize. And I was like, oh yeah, let's try it. Sure.
Okay.
So I went with it, but I walked out of there thinking like, wow, that was a horrible audition. I was not good at all.
Were you aware already of the Resident Evil series beforehand? I don't think you were a gamer, were you?
I'm not a gamer because I have a terribly addictive personality to things that I'd like really get into, and gaming it was briefly one of them.
Okay.
I really wanted to grow up to be an elf, I think. And so when gaming first kind of came out, it was like, yes, this is amazing. I can live my life as an elf. I want to say it was like Baldur's Gate or one of those. And I was playing it for probably like 3 days straight. And then emerged a dark cave of like, wow, what is wrong with me? I need a life. This cannot happen again. So I've cut myself off, much like addicts need to.
Yes.
So not terribly into gaming, though I did know this particular series because my friends, Chris Emerson, who played Pierce, I think Nevins is the name in the previous one, and and another friend, Sarah Fletcher, played Sherry Birkin, the one right before this. So I'd known sort of their experiences.
Okay.
As well as obviously the movies and things, which are not the game canon, I'm aware. But
putting that little exception on there that you just said is just going to, your cult status amongst the Resident Evil fans is just going to go through the roof because without wanting to, let's just say they're not particularly popular with the fans as being official. So wonderful to hear you even say that.
Once I found out which game it was, just to kind of understand it, I kind of backed off researching too much, but after I got a little bit into it because I realized for this particular character, it's almost better if I didn't have a super great understanding of the world.
Yeah.
But there's so much to it. There's like rabbit hole after rabbit hole to fall down.
Tell me about it. I've got about sort of 4 different versions of each game, and I'll spare you the heated arguments that we have in the forums about the backstories and the intricate plots. And I'm also going to spare our listeners me just completely nerding out and telling it's I too had ambitions to be Legolas in Lord of the Rings.
Nice.
Along with being a professional footballer, that just wasn't going to happen. My son thinks it's very sad that I changed my Xbox Live name from something that was related to Resident Evil to Snow Elf when Skyrim, the latest edition of Skyrim came out. Yeah, one day I'd love to join you in Elfland. Not necessarily with elves, but very much in that kind of realm of fantasy. You're the star of the new adventures of Peter and Wendy.
I am. Well, one of them anyway, the obviously star being Peter, played by our creator, one of our co-creators, Kyle Walters. Yeah, I had this amazing opportunity to dive into the world of web series, I guess, about in 2007 or so, right when they were kind of just slightly being taken seriously. And I have found some of my best friends in that community, and indie film makers in general have come out of that. And I've been really lucky to be a part of that little group out here in LA, which is now a huge, massive, crazy international group. But this particular one, it just came up and I saw a posting for a modernized Peter Pan tale produced by a friend of mine, Jenny Powell, who had won an Emmy for her work previously in web series stuff. I was like, oh, well, I have to be a part of this somehow. And how amazing would it be to play an iconic character like Wendy Darling? I got to play Dor in the West Coast premiere here in the U.S. of Neverwhere, Neil Gaiman's play, and I get to play Skipper and Stacy for Barbie Life in the Dreamhouse. So I was just like, okay, I must go after Wendy. And I had stellar auditions and a lot of fun with it, and ended up being cast as Wendy and playing her the first season, and then coming on board as a producer for the second and third seasons. And we just finished the third one, which is the final, like closes off the book basically. Just a dream come true. In fact, we call it the Pan Fam because everybody's become so close, and it's such a fantastic for fans, transmedia and role playing that have joined in, and this little town of Neverwhere, Ohio that we've created online, and it's fantastic. I highly recommend people check it out. It's all on newpeterwendy.com. That has links to everything. I've gotten to play in some really cool worlds, and, Resident Evil definitely among them. It was funny to find out that was the world I was playing in. As I mentioned, you never know which game it is, and sometimes you don't even find out until the day it comes out, which happened to me with Grand Theft Auto 5. I think I got a call saying, hey, your game's out today, and I was like, cool, what game was it? And they told me. I think Final Fantasy, that happened too for the Class 0. But this particular one came out during a table read. I think a producer let it slip or something, and we all kind of like whispered together later, like, did they just say Resident Evil? Is that what this is?
During our interview with Katie O'Hagan, who plays Mia Winters, she mentioned that no one was aware at all of what video game it was. And then I think at one of the table scenes, one of the higher-ups mentioned the Umbrella Corporation. Yeah, and then all the whispering started. And I don't know if you ever saw that guy again, if he was given his marching orders. I think it
was one of the higher-ups, so I think he was okay, if I remember correctly. But yeah, and that was actually my first table read, so I was just coming into this. They'd already been working together for a year at that point.
Yeah.
And as my character wasn't really as big as a lot of the other ones, or at least in the recording requirements, it was kind of amazingly cool to get thrown into this and then be like, oh, cool. Am I just like a little side thing? And they're like, well, no, you have this big boss battle. And I was like, oh, cool.
But that's interesting you mentioned about perhaps not having as many lines to deliver as the other characters, because testament to your delivery that it reminded me of another tragic antagonist, a character, Alexia Ashford. And again, with her character, there aren't as many lines as may be delivered by other antagonists in the past or the protagonist from that particular game. But the character and the performance really resonates and sticks with you. And as with her, I discovered with you that I actually thought that you had delivered many more lines than you actually did in the game. And that's, I think, because the character feels so developed and so rounded. And when you are delivering fewer lines, they're still hitting really hard. And as a gamer, they really are resonating with us.
Oh, thank you. I'm thrilled to hear that. I mean, we had a great director, Naveed, on set with us. So we had a lot of help there too. And I was blown away with the level of performance of all the actors in this particular project, which this was my first foray into mocap. I've gotten to do some since, but it was mind blowing to see the complete level of imagination you have to have in this thing when you're going through these, life or death situations with super urgency, and you have to really deliver it in a realistic way. But you are wearing spandex and dots all over your face and the camera off your head, and you're trying to run up a set of stairs that don't have railings but still go 10 feet high, or opening a door that is really just a 2x4 held by a person. It requires a new level of imaginative play, and it was fascinating and exciting to see them start to work and see where their bar was. I was like, okay, let's do this. These people are awesome. Which, if even one wheel isn't quite as strong, it can make the whole machine kind of wobbly. But they were all just stellar to work with.
Are you remembering?
What? What are you?
I've done 813, which is a horror zombie survival show, web series by Tracy King. And let's see what else. Scary. Oh, I remember. It's called Night Terror. Yes, Night Terror. It was a super short. Stephanie Thorpe produced, who I've gotten to work with as a producing partner before, and she's fantastic to work with. These little scares, which were fun. It's a kind of micro budget. Yeah, it was fun to work with her and that team.
Now, finding yourself as the very temperamental child personification of this iconic series' latest BOW must have been a daunting prospect. But you do have a significant body of theatrical, television and film work, not to mention your professional training by highly acclaimed acting coach Susan Batson. Paula, was there anything in that long list of acting credits that particularly helped you for such an unusual and potentially esoteric role?
I don't know that I even let it sink in that it was as big a franchise as it is. At the time, you kind of just focus at the task at hand.
Yes.
Of just bringing the character to life. Of course, this is over the course of, many months, because they just kind of call you in for a session and then you hear the next month or next week or so. So it's a unique prospect versus just a film where you kind of shoot it all at once or over the course of a month or so. I think in a way, every single role one has before the next role kind of all mashes together to help you get to the next ladder, next rung in the ladder, yes. I guess, of your performance, I hope. Although it's sort of a funny mishmash. I mean, if I'm looking at things from the Barbie universe mixed in with Monster High and this.
It almost felt unfair asking you that question, in terms of how particular this character is, because I'm sure you've not had to play sort of temperamental BOWs before.
I haven't done too many evil things. I've done some like Mean Girls and some, especially voice-wise, and I've done a villain or two. I got to be a villain in Disney's Bunked, which is a summer camp TV show. It's super fun. Yes. And that was definitely out of my comfort zone because they originally were casting the character in her 50s, and I am not in my 50s. So I guess maybe it's sort of everything that's wrong with Hollywood in a way, but they'd had me on a veil for a different show and then brought me in the next week. I was like, are you sure they got me for the right role? okay, you know what? Let's just do it. So I kind of went all out with this super character, crazy lady in the woods capturing children.
That must have been a lot of fun.
Oh, it was a hoot. And I think I did her with a British accent the first time and ended up booking it. And then they changed her as we went throughout the week, trying to find like just exactly where to land her.
Why do you guys across the pond always get to do English accents? You know, the more meaner and evil they want your characters to be, the more English your accent has to be.
Actually, if you look at most of the villains on US TV, they're all English actors playing American accents. So we feel just the same. We're like, oh, these British people are coming over and just taking our roles. Well, also Australians. We have a lot of Aussies here too. But yes, so it's just accent envy, I guess.
Yeah.
You guys sound smarter and or like capable of plotting things, I suppose. But yeah, we did away with the accent over the time. They ended up being like, you know what, we're just gonna go balls to the wall and make her like 70. And I was like, okay. Sure. This crazy, huge gray Gibson girl wig on, and it was a blast. Kids on there are so talented, and I don't know how they do it. We'd get new scripts every single night. By the 7 a.m. start of rehearsal the next day, you had to have it pretty much memorized. Yeah. But fun, and it's awesome to see it all the time, and or get texts and messages from friends all over the country saying, oh my gosh, we just saw you on Disney.
Again with Resident Evil, when your friends and family discovered that you were Evelyn.
At least my older members of my family aren't aware of the gaming universe as much. They're still like, oh, you playing that Mario Kart thing with the, yeah? So they're not really up in the gaming world for the most part, other than my younger relatives, like cousins and things. I'm starting to get that from other kids, because a lot of the young girl stuff, the Barbie or the Monster High stuff, I have some cool cred with them now.
Oh, yes.
So I'm excited to see when it starts to hit for my boys. So yeah, but right now they just think it's hilarious that mommy does funny voices, or at least the 2-year-old does.
Oh,
I'm like, no, mommy's not really burning alive, or she's not really a gremlin. I'm just, you can stay here if you're quiet.
Oh, brilliant. And what's interesting, I wonder if that's a skill passed on.
I think, in a way, there probably is something to that, because I accredit it to my dad, who always read books to me every night in character voices. Like, he would pick a different voice for each one, or each character within the story. And, we went through all the classics and all sorts of sci-fi and all sorts of everything, practically.
Oh, he put far more production levels into it than my parents did when they were reading.
Yeah, it was amazing. And so I guess I always, and I'd always done that when I would read books to friends, or if I was, the older mentor in school reading it to kids.
Yeah, that's lovely.
So it's come in handy for sure. Although, there's only so many that I can get cast with on camera. Certain accents, you're like, no, honey, you are not that. But but it does come in handy. I got to use an Irish one for The Last Tycoon, I guess, this last season by Amazon, and a couple other fun adventures like that, I suppose.
You said we could be a family.
What are you talking about?
You said!
Wait!
I'm tired of waiting.
Please!
I'm often disappointed by the minimal level of biography that Capcom can furnish their actors with for what are showpiece roles, especially when you consider the wealth and breadth of backstory that these characters do have, that they're imbued with, not just before the game, but even afterwards. So I was wondering, was this a frustration that you shared, or perhaps can appreciate from your personal experience? And for you as an actor, does this limited biography help or even hinder your portrayal of the role?
God, it's really interesting. I want to say I got like a 1-page breakdown.
Okay.
I knew she had grown up in a lab, and I knew she didn't have a family, and she wanted one, and had some sort of powerful ability if she got mad. I didn't know what it was. They weren't entirely sure if she had an accent or not at that point in time. So to play with both options, I remember. You know what? I'd say it's such commonplace for us in the VO world, and even just on-camera acting in general too, to not get a whole lot of backstory when you initially go in for an audition, and having to kind of fill in the gaps with either just sort of instinct or some of your own experiences yourself. What you bring to the table is often the best stuff anyway for acting. So I don't know if I saw it as a hindrance as so much as just kind of par for the course. So it didn't throw me off by any means. I think I got a little bit more on her once right before we recorded, and I can kind of glean a little bit off the scenes. I would say quite a bit of acting requires great reading comprehension, script analysis. Yeah. So being able to get stuff from hints So yeah, I think although it would have been wonderful to get more, at the same point, I think I had all I needed, and the points that I felt I needed a little bit more depth. I had the director and Capcom team there on hand to kind of pick their brains a little bit. Afterwards, it's been fascinating to kind of read up more of the backstories. I'm never quite sure what order they do it in. I know there's quite a bit of pre-production involved, but I think some of it too, they kind of fill in the gaps of what they have as they go.
That's one of the things that we as players really enjoy, is that while we're playing the game, we can pick up little files and letters and diaries and things that the characters leave around that furnish up, give us more information on the character, and we find out more about Evelyn's tragic upbringing, like you say, being brought up in a lab. And that's one of the things that really connected me to the series.
I think that is amazing. The world building they put into it is fascinating. And as you mentioned, Shinji, I don't think he was directly involved in this game, either of these two renditions of these games, but the fact that he, had such a hand in building the original worlds is still all over them.
That's a point of interest that our listeners often ask, is what, if any, interaction you had with the Japanese developers themselves on set?
I will say I'm never quite sure what job titles everybody necessarily has beyond, I know that's the director, and I know this guy is probably an executive producer of some sort because they all defer to him. I'm not entirely sure of who played exactly which roles in the post-production and the pre-production of this. But I do know the team was on hand, and they were communicating all the time about, we have to remember this, and we're not sure yet which camera we're going to cut to here to make sure we cover our bases. They were definitely, hands-on, which was pretty amazing.
Are you mad at me, Mommy?
No, Evie, I'm not mad. Wait, what did you call me?
I don't want to live at the lab anymore. I want a house, and I want you to be my mommy.
Okay, Evie. I'll be your mommy. Just come back with me right now, okay? Evie, wait!
Paula, you've spoken warmly in interview about your own childhood, with the exception of the usual teenage warfare we all have to battle. So, presuming there was nothing in your personal upbringing you were able to channel for that voice and for such an insidious delivery, what references or experiences were available for you to draw upon?
Children in the horror genre are nothing new. We've seen lots of versions of really scary kids, right? And I think that the reason they're so scary and so terrifying to all of us is we all know from being kids and from seeing kids is they feel things so intensely and so purely, I guess, like one color. Like if they're mad, they're just furious. And if they're happy, they're over the moon. Like everything is one color. It's very rarely shades of gray. Which makes them terrifying because if they are mad, they want to destroy you. And even just seeing my toddler when he's mad, I'm like,
yeah, where do you get that rage from at such an early age?
You want to burn it all down. Like, I can't get the milk the way I want it. Destroy everything. So I get it. Like, I think there's just something innate once you get that you can just kind of tap into, okay, we're coloring with primary colors here. Let me just use bright red in this, or, so yeah, just tapping into the emotion that she's feeling and getting there. It wasn't, I don't want to say it wasn't hard because that makes it sound breezy, but it was, once you kind of get what works for you as a method, once I found that for me, it clicked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's just something because of that inherently scary about children, and I am aware of that.
No, that definitely very much comes across in your delivery, particularly when you hear Evelyn get slightly more frustrated with Mia, and there's one scene where Mia is finally just loses her patience with Evelyn as, we're not a family, we will never be a family. Oh, yeah. And I'm thinking, no, you really don't want to anger this child. That goes back to the strength in one of the lines you delivered just before then.
Hearing her say that when she was delivering it, it was heartbreaking. So it stung so much that instinctual, I think, at that point, coming from a young mind anyway. But I want to say we might have had to go back and done some ADR on that particular one. I could be wrong, but I feel like that might have been one of the ones that really loved that one. We have to do ADR. Okay. So you had to recreate it in the booth.
Okay.
You never know, if a microphone gets hit, one little sensor falls off and that take didn't work or whatever it is.
Katie was saying the frustration of delivering an Oscar-performing standard performance, and only to then find out that one of the little tags has fallen off.
She definitely did that quite a bit. I did not do any Oscar delivery, but it was. But yes, on occasion you can be like, "Dang it, that was a good one." Yeah, but you know what? The funny thing is that you get to then give it another whirl, I guess, in the magic of filmmaking and game making in the booth, and you can give them multiple different, and then whatever happens to work best, they can take the very best one and snip it in. Wouldn't that be wonderful if we could do it in real life that way?
We'll be together forever.
You've now worked on both of Shinji Mikami's groundbreaking survival horror creations as an actor for a tragic Resident Evil antagonist. And, of course, we discussed the face of equally tragic Myra Hanson.
Facial capture. So I'm doing the emotions and the lip movements, so you're lip syncing, doing weird monster growls and things. I recorded that earlier this year, in the spring, and they already had a release date. They were like, "We are racing the clock. This is coming out this fall. You're going to see it soon." Yeah, it was awesome to be a part of, especially with that quick a turnaround.
Comparing and contrasting both productions, which aspects unique to each would you say did you enjoy the most, and which one the least?
They're such different beasts. It's almost apples to oranges, because I got to be on the set for Resident Evil stuff with other actors. So I guess that, I enjoyed the most. It's fantastic to work with a whole team and other actors. And then it's more complicated in some ways to do the just facial capture, because everything else is already in place. You're just having to match someone else's performance as far as vocal.
Yes.
Because they already have her voice recorded. So you're doing exact lip syncs where if you're off by a fraction of a second, you have to do it again. So, it takes quite a while to get every little line synced up perfectly. And then you're providing the emotional life for it so that the facial expressions can be matched in the animation. So a totally different skill set in a weird way.
Yeah.
I enjoyed both, and I'd love to do both again, definitely. I loved on the Resident Evil side, and the fact that I guess conversely, not having to work with people so that, if you mess up, no one's mad at you and no one else is messing you up, is also great. So, it's challenges on both sides and rewards on both. But I do feel, being able to be the voice and the motions and motion cap and everything for Evelyn, you feel more connected to a character than just provide the facial capture. So she's closer to my heart. But, they both get to grow into huge beasts and have big battles and, involve goo of one type or another, one white, one black. So, oddly similar, but completely different.
Going back, it's funny, going back to the way that you, I don't want to say dismissed and put words into your mouth, but it was great to hear you distinguish the films from the video games. So even more enjoyable to ask you this question, and even more interested in the answer with you making that distinction. As we know, you're not only an actor of multiple nominations and awards, but also a producer and director too. Are there any aspects of the Resident Evil or the Evil Within narratives that inspire you to produce a live-action version of those?
Oh, that would be amazing. I'm mulling it. Probably the tough thing about doing any sort of interpretation of an existing world or a live-action version, if it's only been animated or game, or a book form, I guess, is that you have to come at it from a place of love and fandom yourself, I think, to really make it work. And I don't feel qualified enough to make those particular worlds. I'd have to really let myself dive into the rabbit holes further. Although it's an easy one to fall in love with. But I will say it's financially wouldn't be worth it, just because I know that those two properties are held pretty tightly by the people who have them, and they don't necessarily take kindly to monetizing fan stuff. So I might look for something where I could actually get access to the IP to do it correctly. But those are just, actual producer Paula hat of how could I actually make this work answers. On just the fantasy dreaming of it, oh my gosh, it'd be amazing. It'd be so fun. It would be, something that you could Kickstarter the heck out of, and also a world with, as you mentioned, so much breadth and fans that you could please if you did it right by honoring the canon. I think that's always something that's important, and I wish more people did it. Although I know when you're dealing with a lot of money, as films and TV are, you're always going to have extra chiefs telling you what to do, like, oh, let's just add monkeys or something. But I know why people deviate from canon, but I am always thrilled when they do so less.
Oh, wow. Oh, there'll be so many fans in the Resident Evil series now desperate to see you get involved in something because, I mean, what's wonderful, actually, Capcom as a company, they do allow this to happen, and there are many, many fan fictions of various different Resident Evil narratives online. And
are they live action usually, or are they're not monetized? They must not have it, because usually that's the line that they won't let you cross.
Yeah, they're live action, but you're quite right. They're not.
Yeah. Oh, I did a ton of fan fiction research when we initially did our fan trailer for ElfQuest, so I know which ones are friendly and which ones are not. And in general, they're none of them are if you're trying to make money off of their intellectual property, but a lot of them are if you're just doing promotion and sharing the love.
Yeah.
Although I love doing passion projects, they also have to kind of be able to be monetized at this point. Otherwise, I'm just paying a babysitter and not getting anything back out of it.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Now do you remember?
Yes, Evelyn. I remember.
Can we be a family like before?
No, Evie. We can't be a family. We were never a family. We will never be a family.
Then I don't need you anymore.
It's Halloween night, and we're trick-or-treating in defiance of our adulthood, very much channeling our inner child. Although I'm keeping an eye on your creepy inner child, Paula. I've played Resident Evil.
Hey.
Joking aside, though, you're certainly no stranger to the horror genre in its many forms. Aside from meeting your husband on the set of a horror production, what have been the other interesting and exhilarating experiences for you can I call you this, as a scream queen?
Oh, I don't think I qualify as that, although I do have some friends that definitely are. Although they, that would be an awesome role to play too. I'm probably getting too old for queendom, I guess, there. Do they have a cutoff at like 27 they kill you or something? You're not, I don't know. Yeah, no, I have been lucky enough to die a number of times, I guess. Although I seem to die in like comedies and stuff too, so it's But yes, I would say it's tough to beat the one where I got to meet Charlie, meet my husband. I will say working in the horror genre is always so surprising to me, and that the actual sets are so fun. They're always just full of laughter and jokesters and pranking and hilarity in general, and they're just an amazing summer camp-like atmosphere for the most part. So they have just been some of my favorite sets to work on compared to what you're putting on screen.
And that's something that really came across in our previous two interviews with Sarah Coates and Katie O'Hagan. They both mentioned that it really felt like a family on set, because unlike a lot of other Resident Evil games in the past, where unfortunately these wonderful artists haven't had the opportunity to deliver their lines together and interact with each other, all very much being in booths, maybe in separate studios. But it's great to hear that you guys did interact a lot more on the production of Resident Evil 7.
We did, and I was so thankful for it. Like I said, it really raised the bar for me as soon as I saw them bringing their A game. I was like, oh, that better be really awesome here, because, step it up, Rhodes. But no, they're all so fantastic to work with. I've loved working with Sarah in other projects, too, since then. So she is just a gem, as is Katie. I love following on her adventures online as she travels the globe. And I think working with them made this, even before we knew what it was, made it just a joy every time. Definitely something I'll cherish, which is so funny because it literally is just those horrible, awful worlds that you'd hate to actually be living in for the most part, yet they're created with a lot of love and a lot of camaraderie for the most part on horror sets in general.
Katie was mentioning that very much the imagination, when you're in a booth and, like you say, you've got the spandex on and all these things to take you out of the situation. You're very much relying on your imagination, your connections with the other artists to, throw yourself into that world.
So much so. I mean, it's all you have. Like for the I think the scene where they bring me in for the first time to the family and I'm kind of passed out and they're carrying me. They were all there. That was the most we'd all worked together in one scene. And it was fascinating because you're looking around at this, basically a airline hangar of sorts, or a big warehouse sort of with all the equipment in it. But it's basically a huge open space with, tape on the floor to show you where the walls are and things. And the imagination and the ability for these people to deliver a performance that just drew us all in together. It was magical. It was fantastic to work with.
Yeah.
You're great.
Yeah.
And then you see it play back on the screen and it was like, wow, that's amazing. It's totally what was playing in my head on so many levels. But yeah, it was great.
And as a player as well, we get to enjoy that because this is the first Resident Evil game. In modern times, there was Resident Evil Survivor, but it's the first main title Resident Evil game that is in the first person. So
really? I didn't even know that. Holy cow, yeah, I guess you're right.
I have to say, as someone who really disliked first-person games and rarely played them and was very much loved Resident Evil, particularly because it was third-person and you could see your character and then you had these sumptuous hand-drawn fixed
yeah, you get to choose your elf, as it were.
Exactly. But I think with Resident Evil 7, it actually aids that connection. You really throw yourself, obviously with the VR as well, but even without the VR, you're completely immersed in that world, making your lines even more harrowing when we can hear them.
I'm thrilled. You know, what's funny is that the friends I do have that are gamers, I think just because they do know me in person and I kind of look like a cartoon, I guess, like I'm a tiny little redhead, right? So it's funny because they were playing it and I guess they actually recognized my voice right away before I even told them it was me or anything. And they said it was oddly not scary because it was me. So every time they'd see her, they were like, Paula, at first, until about 2 scenes in, they said they got drawn in and were now terrified of me, I guess, in some, what I would call them. Yeah, so I thought it was very interesting that I was able to win them over to fear, I guess, after a few scenes.
Ethan, it's okay. It's okay, it's me. I know you didn't mean to hurt me.
Kill him, Mommy.
But you shouldn't have done that! It fucking hurts!
Does it want to be my daddy? Then he can die. Now it's Mommy's turn to kill you.
I've never had one of those, like, you're discovered, immediate success overnight sort of things. I've always been the, like, one small rung of the ladder and the next one. And,
yes.
But I wouldn't trade it because I think this is one of those jobs and or life paths in which you just have to say, there's no end game. You're not going to necessarily, if you're in it to get to point X, then good luck. But if you're in it because of the journey, then it's perfect. I wouldn't trade my journey or my path for another one. So, and I'm able to do what I love and have a life that I love doing. So I can't trade that.
What was the production you were on where you met your husband?
Oh gosh, it's called Staunton Hill, and it's George Romero's son, Cameron Romero's first film. I'm sure it's online and or on, I think it was on Showtime for a while and things, but it was a really fun script. It got a little bit changed, I think, in post, but it was still one of the greatest things to work on, just in that I met Charlie and some other amazing friends on that. Without too many spoilers, he's not someone that helps me out, for sure. So yes, yes.
Okay.
but I don't make it to any sequels in that either. It was a pretty horrific. And the special effects team and makeup of Kevin Kirkpatrick, who is just phenomenal and, as he should have, has absolutely blown up since. He's done all the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Literally almost everything you can think of that's like, this is amazing special effects is probably Kevin Kirkpatrick.
You're gonna be one of us. And then maybe you'll play nicely.
Hoping and wanting for you, the artist, to get as much biography as you can. But were you shown any concept art for Evelyn?
Well, I got, I believe, 2 little images of her. One on the exact same sheet of paper I got with her bio. So it was basically a breakdown of the character as well as a little, I want to say maybe like a 3-inch picture of her, and then maybe a slightly bigger picture, maybe like a 1-inch of more of a zoomed in head. But for the most part, it was just a little girl in a gray dress. They didn't have much detail or specific age yet. They were kind of looking between like 7 and 14, somewhere in there. And her hair was over her face, so they didn't have a whole lot of detail yet. Which is funny because sometimes when you're doing mocap, you'll see a concept video where the team has made kind of in the office, somebody's taken a camera and they've just been hiding behind desks or whatever to create this scene. So usually the person playing Evelyn, I want to say at least a time or two it was a guy, like a full-on adult guy playing it in their offices. So it was both adorable and hilarious at the same time. And then you'd get the, jump cuts of them screaming into the camera at the last second or something. And I was like, okay, got it. I totally know what you're going for. But yeah, I saw preliminary art. The next time I saw her was when we were actually doing ADR, and it was slightly more advanced. So I'd see like, the animation of her at the top of the stairs screaming. So I'd know at least
I was going to ask if you got the opportunity, because obviously you're recording before production, but I just wondered if you got the opportunity to see any of the cutscenes maybe after the game or during recording.
Yeah, like the stuff they had kind of in place that they were looking to just fit timing-wise. I got to see some of that, which was exciting. And of course, after it came out, I got to see all sorts of fun playthroughs and things online, watching people play.
Have you actually had an opportunity to play the game yourself?
Only briefly. I tried on the headset that a friend had just a little bit, and I'm way too much of a scaredy cat. I was like, cool, okay, I'm out. That looks amazing. And very, very what I should be braver in, but I'm not.
And quite surreal chasing yourself around as well.
I don't even think I got to that scene. I think I was just in an early on walk around scene, and I was already like, nope, back out. But I've watched them online, the battles and things as well. So that was kind of fun to see, because I knew there was a point where it kind of flashed between young Evelyn and old Evelyn, only because they were like, oh, and here's where you're going to be old. And I was like, oh, do I need to be old? And they're like, no, we have another actor for that. Okay, cool. So matching her parts of her performance, I think, because she'd already recorded most of the stuff by the time I came on.
Now, being a parent of a teenage child, I'm very sad don't get the opportunity to go trick-or-treating anymore. That's one of the main disadvantages. But you would be very useful trick-or-treating, because we could really do with that voice in demanding sweets from people.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? That's funny is I always imagined I go to Comic-Cons and such a bit here. Usually I'll have a panel or something, and I also, just as a fan, love to walk the floor a little bit and see it. But that would be a hoot to just dress up as her one day and walk around.
But just with that voice.
Yeah.
I just want to see the look on people's faces when, you're demanding sweets in the voice of Evelyn. Yeah. Well, very much on that subject, it's Halloween night. And I'm not passing up the opportunity to go turbo trick-or-treating with a child BOW. So let's see who's behind this door.
Hey guys, don't you think you're a little bit too old to be trick-or-treating? And I would like to ask Paula some questions instead, considering my internet's finally working because those gremlins have finally stopped chewing on the freaking cords.
Yay! Hi!
It finally worked.
Of course. No, I'm thrilled to have you join us.
Aw, thank you.
This is so cool. We have like a wild global triangle going on in this call right now, from LA to Pennsylvania to the UK. It's awesome.
It gets crazy sometimes, that's for sure. Alright, time for the question. Describe your perfect Halloween treat, and of course, your perfect Halloween trick.
As Paula or even as Evelyn.
Okay, let's see. Well, I do know Paula better. Maybe I'll go with her. I will say that I have a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old, but the 2-year-old, we've been practicing trick-or-treating so that he kind of has a grasp of what that is. Like whenever, we're also potty training, so I'm tying them together, which might come back to bite me later. But for now, if successful, he gets to get his little pumpkin bag and he knocks on the door and I open it and he says, trick or treat. And then he gets a candy. So this will be the first year that the 2-year-old really gets to go trick or treating. And I think that is going to be kind of my treat, is seeing him live sort of the fun of Halloween and just starting traditions with him. I'm really excited for that. We've been practicing. It's a hoot. He just knocks on the door and like gets a candy if he says trick or treat, which sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he just says candy, please. But okay, this is maybe awful of me, but I don't know if you guys have seen the Jimmy Kimmel thing where they tell the kids that the morning after Halloween that they ate all their candy.
That's horrendous. I couldn't. I saw one and it was awful.
They are, but they're awfully wonderful because I kind of want to do that too. I think he just woke up, but I kind of want to do that just because he's such a sweet, loving, forgiving kid that he's literally, I just know it. He's going to cry and say, it's okay, mama. Like he's just.
Well, that's what broke my heart.
It is, but it's also sort of hilarious. I don't know. It's fine. I'm awful. But he just got his shots and he literally like cried for a minute and then goes, okay, all done shots. Bye-bye, nurse. Thank you, nurse. And he started tearing up. She's like, oh, he thanked me. We might try that. May not be this year, but that might happen. I do have a bit of a prank dragon reputation on sets, so we'll see if I come up with something better.
What made you want to be a demonic child?
Well, who's saying I'm not already one? No, I probably the fact that I like to eat and I'm an actor, so mostly we're willing to be most anything they'll cast us as. No, it's my voice kind of naturally being a fit for things like kids and or animals. I get a lot of kids, and most of them are good guys or cute shows. So the opportunity to be somebody that maybe isn't always seen as perfect by others. I don't want to call her a villain because to Evie, she's not a villain to herself. Yeah, that was amazing. I definitely wanted to have that opportunity to live in that skin for a little while.
You scared a lot of people with some of your lines, you know that.
But I'm thrilled. I'm glad they were scared. Haha. Job done.
Job done, scared everybody.
I also voice things like the Monster High characters or the Barbie characters or Doc McStuffins characters. So, I mean, it evens out. We get to play make-believe for our living. I can't complain on any level, so it's fun.
Did they give you much backstory about her? Did you know what her fate was, and did you feel sorry for her?
I didn't know what her ultimate fate would be, especially at least taking on the role. And I never go into a role without knowing the heart of the character, at least like I mentioned before, nobody's the villain in their own story. We're all the heroes of our story, right? We're all doing what we think is right, even if somebody else thinks that's like the worst thing in the world to do, which I think sometimes in life comes in handy, realizing that people that you disagree with strongly think they're doing something for the right reasons, even if you don't agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, same with Evie. She doesn't think she's evil. She doesn't think she's bad. She just wants love and to belong in a family. So nothing that I'm doing as that character is wrong in my head. It's all just, means to a very important end. But yeah, I did not know her fate, I think, until after we'd been recording for quite a while, and we ended up doing the boss battle, and I was like, oh, dang it. I was like, wait, is this one of those characters like sometimes dies if you happen to go down that route, or if I'm always going to die? Like,
no.
You gotta kill her. And they're like, yeah, I think it's that one. And I'm like, dang it. All right. But in hindsight, how awesome. It's great to be the kind of big bad-ish person.
Did you have any time or chance to interact with the other voice actors, and at the workplace or random about?
I did, and it was lovely. We had, lunches together, as well as just a little downtime as we were all setting up for any particular scene. And a lot of times they'd schedule multiple things for the day. So if you weren't in that scene, you got to be off the stage and kind of chatting with the other people who weren't in that scene. So it was really a wonderful situation that you don't always get to have in mocap, or especially in voiceover, where we got to mingle and got to know each other, and everybody really involved in this thing, like Giselle and Sarah, as you mentioned, and Katie. They were all fantastic. It was a really great camaraderie and a team that they put together that had great chemistry. So I'm super thankful for that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, because of the magic of the internet, I've been able to, stalk them online since and or stay in touch. So that's been fantastic.
I bet you sent them creepy little messages from little Evie. Hi, guys.
I did joke with Giselle a bit about something. I don't even remember what the post was, but I definitely posted something about asking her to be my mother or something again. I don't know if anybody else got it, but her and I were in on the joke. Not that I want to spell out how to stalk people, but we're actually all terribly easy to find, and she's wonderful.
That's the wonderful thing about, the social media, is it just brings fans closer with you guys. And when you do have an artist like yourself and Sarah and Katie, who are just
it's mostly wonderful, right?
Yeah.
You get very few weirdos, but yes, on occasion it can be like, oh, that's the worst thing.
Of course, it doesn't work unless we've got artists with just such generous, warm, open attitudes towards their fans, like yourself and the other artists that we've spoken to.
Only the creepy ones. The creepy ones should know that I'm super scary, just like the character.
I was about to say, she'll use the voice on you.
Darn right.
I'm gonna go find my mommy now before that interfering grown-up Chris Redfield does another cameo. Is that Joe White in the mansion? Happy Halloween!
Stay away! Forest outside the mansion! Stay! Hey!
The BSAA received intel as to the whereabouts of Umbrella's founder.
I'd rather starve to death in here than be eaten by one of those undead monsters!
They're gonna launch missiles carrying the T-virus at major cities across the United States.
Come anyone! Our platoon is cut off! No survivors found! This is Carlos!
If you succeeded in developing the world's most powerful biological weapon, what would you do?
Discipline breeds unity, unity breeds power.
Here will become the place of Umbrella's demise.